Hi, everybody. It's Jessamyn and Meg back with another episode of Surviving UX, helping you survive the tumultuous despair of your UX design career. First, a quick disclaimer. This program doesn't represent the experience of a specific company or employee. It does not disclose any confidential information about any company or employee. It's for entertainment purposes only.
So today we're hearing again directly from designers, those that are in agony on the job. And, that agony, I think a lot of times can really stem, one could argue, from business decisions and product direction. So we'll jump right into a question that really exposes how we'd like to design versus what it's really like to be on the job.
Our first question comes from a designer who's just getting started in their career. They wrote in and asked, honest answer, do you use the design process? What about you, Meg?
To prep for this question, I had to Google search and bring up the Wikipedia article on the double diamond because I know what it is as a concept and I can definitely use those terms and know what they mean when somebody brings them up, but I'm like, ooh, I need a refresher because that's not something that is maybe always as part of the practice. And so I think the answer to the question is definitely not always. It is for sure not something that is always going to happen in your projects. Now, then I think the question becomes, well, if it's not always, do you ever use the design process? And of course, like which design process? I referenced this double diamond one, but there are, of course, kind of other ones as well. Are there other ones that come to mind for you other than
I'm just thinking, let's break down what is the double diamond for people who are listening who may not know it. How would you describe it?
Well, since I'm looking at it right now, and you can go to a very short Wikipedia article, it's basically like you start with a problem, which is always a good place to start. I think most design processes start, looking at a problem to be solved, or good ones do at least. And then like opening up the floodgates to kind of like, how could we solve this? And then narrowing that down to what we're going to do, and then opening it back up to how to solve for that from a design perspective, and then narrowing it back down to the solution. So the diamond comes from that, like opening up and narrowing down and doing that process twice, once for research and once for design. And I think designers are definitely, in an ideal world, designers are absolutely involved in both stages, even though one is more research heavy and one is more design heavy. But this is all in an ideal world.
Right. Do you feel like one of the diamonds you spend more time on than the other?
Well, at the dot at the very end on the of the actual like creating the solution, it's probably where a lot of designers spend most of their time, because that is the most visible thing that we produce, and also the thing that our PMs care about. That's the thing where it's like, oh, well, if you don't have that, we're holding back development. We're the bottleneck. Design's the bottleneck. I think actually that's like my least favorite phrase in all of my job experiences. Oh, we're waiting on design for that. And sometimes I think I'm a little hypersensitive to that, and so I'm trying at all times to like get in front of that and not let it get to that point. And other times I think people are directly saying that and being being like, no, design is the bottleneck, and I'm like, well, crap. we've gotten to the point where I don't want to be that, but so yeah, I think in reality that's probably where most of design, or most of the time of UX designer is spent, which really makes it seem like, no, we don't have the flexibility or the encouragement or the infrastructure to be able to execute on a design process like this in most cases.
Yeah, I mean, when you were talking, it made me remember this spreadsheet for one team that I worked in. It was their backlog, and one of the statuses they had on the projects was blocked on mocks. And I love that because it rhymed and it was like an official status that they had. So it was like anything that I was working on, anything I was doing was marked for them as blocked. So I, just by nature of me being part of the process and working on the design, I'm blocking them. So it really it goes to show you like how design can be regarded
Mhm.
on teams. So yeah, but
That's that, yeah, that really resonates with me. Like, why is the initial thought that it's that, that it's being blocked on it, being blocked, as opposed to it's like we're spending the time to like get to the to the right solution, or some other type of phrase that maybe
yeah.
is a more positive, more generous to the work design is doing. um and also, like, at least kind of shows that the other people that you're working with like understand the value of design. And it's quite possible the answer to that question is because they don't.
Yeah.
It's just not, it is just something they're waiting on to move forward with. Like, I mean, like, I hate to say it, I think there's some other things in that category too that gotta get lumped in. But so it's not just design, but like I think localization can also be one. If folks who are listening work at a company that sells products in regions outside of the English, where they're just offering an English language option, many of us have to, or not have to, I shouldn't say have to. Many of us are working with localization partners, and I think that's another place where kind of it can be regarded as a roadblock or a so just a checkpoint. I guess
Hmm.
checkpoint's probably a better description of like, we got to get through localization. We're waiting on those strings. And in
Hmm.
reality, what you should be doing with your localization team is leveraging them and their insights and their expertise to not only do localization from a language perspective, but also get their insights on um, uh, things like cultural appropriateness, or things that might work better in those regions that you're not aware of, because you're only thinking about it from an English only or US perspective, and
Hmm.
not thinking about it like a roadblock or a stopgap in the process. So I don't think it's just design, and but I do think that even even designers potentially can think about other parts of the process as kind of being blockers for them too.
Oh
Kind of
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, you think about like, somebody who's getting into design and they're being taught this design process as part of their education. I mean, I certainly was. It was such a shock, such a culture shock when I started working in software about how that process is really either absent or compressed.
Hmm.
And it's all very much assumed that the PM owns user research and any sort of customer facing activity, and that design is sort of considered to be doing just the design part and not necessarily, they're sort of treated like an engineer, where it's like, I'm just going to, here, I'm going to tell you what to do, you do it, and then you give it back to me and I'll take it out into the world. There's a lot of times where the designer really, they're not assumed that they can or want to even do user research or talk to customers or test designs or anything like that. And I mean, sometimes I do think that PMs feel like designers kind of encroach on their customer relationships, or
Hmm.
um, maybe try to muscle in too hard on getting feedback or having the relationship with the customer. And I've definitely had a lot of pushback over the years in trying to get in front of customers with design for feedback, because
Hmm.
it just is like, oh, the PM's already done all this. Why do you
Hmm.
need to go and talk to a customer? So, and if that's the case where the PM really does have that great relationship and they can get feedback and bring it back to you, great. I mean, wonderful. We're all saving time. But if the PM's off doing it and the designer is just sort of working in isolation without a whole lot of input on what customers do and don't like, then it's like a recipe for disaster, because the designer and the engineer will just start to make things that are easy for them or that they understand and know without getting that real world feedback. And then you end up shipping something that you have no clue how it's going to perform. Yeah.
In an ideal world, I would love to be able to ask at the start of every project, who would be the right people to test with.
Oh yeah.
If, when, and not if we get to the point where we need to test, when we get to the point where we need to test, and how accessible are, how can I access them? And if the answer is I don't know, who those people are, or the answer is no, you can't have access to them, I would love to be able to be like, well, then I'm not working on this project,
right?
I don't have the resources to do the things that I need to do.
That's the best time to negotiate, is right up front. And I'll say stuff like, okay, what kind of customers do you want to talk to about this? Who do you want to talk to? Who do you want to look at this and give us feedback? And I really do try to sell that idea of user research early, because once it's already on the rails and you've already got mocks, they've got from you what they want, and they're gonna take your work and take it on the road, and they'll take ownership, which is fine. But then you've missed out as the designer on that opportunity to learn and iterate, yourself and build your own sort of knowledge. So you have to do a little bit of, you're totally right. You will have the power at the very beginning, but as you've got that developed body of work, then they've got it. So they don't need you anymore. And so then you're a lot less powerful. You can't, tell them, oh, well, I need to go talk to some people. You need to help me set up some calls. They don't need that from you. So yeah, they've wrung you dry and they're ready to move on. Well, let's move on to our next question. This one comes from, I think we got a response on LinkedIn. So how about making enterprise products more consumer friendly? I feel like I should take a shot every time I hear those phrases. So working on enterprise projects, first of all, enterprise products, talk to us, Meg, about what does that mean, you're working on enterprise, and what does it mean to make it more consumer friendly?
Sure. So when I think of enterprise products that are out there, I think of the types of things that we're selling to large corporations. So we're talking about, thousands of users that are oftentimes, to be snarky about it, oftentimes being forced to adopt something. So it's not, it's not just an average user saying like, oh, I really want to use this tool and I'm going to go out and figure out a way to use it. It's more like your company, your system administrator is saying, hey, these are the things that are available to you and you can use them. So that's, then I think I'll kind of come back to that in a little bit. But so that's kind of one thing about enterprise products is that they're on a much larger scale. They can also be really detailed and complex. And another thing that I feel like I've seen a lot of is because these are large customers, business customers who have probably a lot of money to spend on getting their businesses operating correctly, they ask for all sorts of customizable things and oftentimes can introduce a lot of complexity in the product or in the way in which it's sold. And by doing one-offs. So maybe the particular customer isn't being super nuanced, but if you take 50 of those customers and they all have slightly different asks, you're starting to introduce a lot of like, oh, well, this product works this way in this way, and we're so we're so friendly to everyone that we have now made this beast of a product that really can't even do its probably original thing very well. So those are some, I think those are some characteristics of enterprise products. I think that I, I'm sure the more consumer friendly comment here, um, and I definitely like the sentiment about needing perhaps an alcoholic or happy hour beverage after a long work day where you've encountered this rings very true for me. But and I could mean different things, but I think one of the things that also just like gets under my skin is like something along the lines of like, make it easy, or this is too many clicks down. We need to not have it too many clicks down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think while there's certainly there's certainly, when anybody ever says that to you, there's certainly reason to kind of look and see and reevaluate if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of times they are just really narrowly focusing on their piece of the larger experience that they want to be easier, and they're not thinking about the whole system that has been created to to service a business in a certain way, and or with certain functionality, and how much like just how much functionality there is that we have to deal with, that making it easy doesn't, or putting it 2 clicks down is really the most appropriate place for this particular feature. And no, I'm sorry, like your feature
Mm-hmm.
isn't the most important thing. It's got to
Mm-hmm.
live somewhere. It's got to live somewhere that makes sense.
Right.
So that's what it means to me. I think, I think there could be some other things like that I've perhaps also seen out there, which is maybe like saying, oh, this enterprise product that is very dry or has a very difficult interface, like making it more friendly. Sorry, friendly is what we're talking about, but making it more, I don't know, colorful, or less like easier on the eyes, like giving it a new skin, putting, as they say, another phrase I do not like, the lipstick on a pig thing. I think that could
Oh
also be part
man.
of it as well. So
I know,
yeah,
but you know what?
those are
Like
some things that
lipstick
come to
on a
mind.
pig, I feel like people are like, oh, don't just do a paint job. Don't just put lipstick on a pig. But a lot of times it's like, well, this pig is gonna go out there. So it's either gonna have bare pink lips, or we can put a little lipstick on this pig. What's it gonna be?
Yeah, that's a
Give me
good
that
point.
lipstick. I
If
mean,
our choice is between lipstick on a pig or sending the pig out there, without lipstick, I think the real choice should be, don't send the pig out there at all. The pig's not ready.
come
Or
on.
maybe it's not a pig at all that we need to be sending out there. Um,
I would
how about
replace the
yeah?
double diamond with like a pig in one of the diamonds, and maybe a pig with lipstick in the second diamond. And that would be, we're starting out with the pig. Let's get the pig together. Now let's get that lipstick on that pig. That's my design process. I mean, the thing I think when you were talking, I was reflecting on at least the double diamond. I was thinking about how important it is to just get work done. And one of the things that, you know, I'm really sensitive to is my team's tolerance for iteration, because there are times when people are like, oh, hey, we could make this better. Let's go in there and rip this out and put this in. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure, let's do it. You want to do that? Let's go for it. And then there's times where if you touch a hair on something's head, people will lose their shit. And they are like, don't touch my thing, or
Mhm.
don't touch that thing. It's fine. Just leave it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
fine, fine. I will
In a
leave it the
related
fuck
way,
alone.
I see that with customers too. Like, we've put something out there, people are used to it. It's it's not good IA. It could be better, especially given new things we've introduced. But when you come up with a solution, if it moves navigation, and we're now challenging the customer uh, to learn where something they've used for a while, even if for new customers it'll be great. You have to, especially with enterprise products, you have to think through like, oh man, we've trained all these people to use this bad this, this like this weird conceptual framework for where
Right.
things live, and now we want to untrain them and retrain them. Like, that's not going to work. So I see
Mm-hmm.
that from customers too. I think it's separate from developers, but it's the same kind of sentiment of, no, we have to leave that as is because we're too worried, scared, not confident that moving it from where it is right now is really better than what we have today.
Yeah.
Gosh, I would love to be part of an enterprise product like from the get-go, and not not but the reality is that's never going to be the situation. I don't think they bring designers in early on, and I could be that could be an unfair statement, but in my opinion, like, you're not going to get designers on a project or on a new product for a little while, and by then a lot of the infrastructure decisions have already been made around around some of the core elements of it, and so you're just working like, I sometimes use the analogy of like, like, sometimes what we're building is just a toilet, and we are just trying really hard to reconnect the pipes so that the shit doesn't come back up.
Oh man. Oh, perfect. Well, let's move on to our next question. A listener wrote in, we had asked about, any horror stories people had about, hackathons or other projects. And one listener wrote in, she said, my horror story is that nowadays people still think that the product to solve the problem is an app when there are 100 apps out there to solve the problem.
This makes me think of, I now watch television again with commercials, and some of these commercials come on, and it's like an app for like finding the best insurance. It's kind of like, I don't know, like a
Oh,
flight
yeah.
thing, but for insurance, or like, and that is the immediate thing that pops into my mind. I think no more apps, just no more apps. Like, just stop. We don't like,
Yes.
we're done.
Yes.
We're full up. We don't need any more. So yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I think that this is this can also be seen in kind of maybe um, the folks that work on more service design related stuff. And I think that there are more of those folks these days than there used to be.
Hmm.
So those would be the type of people who are looking more at processes and yeah, more like processes, and how to redefine uh, how those are being executed, typically with like people, tools, environments, all those kinds of inputs, and redesigning those to be more to be better and streamlined, as opposed to saying like, oh, we're going to design a product to solve for that need. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I also think that uh, people who are maybe traditionally more product designers, which I would say you and I are probably more in that camp, need to kind of have a lens of like, when is it when can we reevaluate whether or not this product or whether or not what we're building to solve for the problem. And this goes back to the first question about the design process, is when is the thing that we're solving for an actual product versus a solution that might take a slightly different form. And I got to see kind of that happen in action, where yeah, the product could be better and could be changed, but the reality is that there was a process that just needed a small fix, and
Mm-hmm.
having enough minds kind of look into that process. It was a customer service related process,
Mm-hmm.
and or customer support related process, and like to actually kind of see that play out in a way that that changed the processes was really quite refreshing, because
Mm.
uh, I think it took people saying, hey, what we need isn't X. What we really need is just a better way of addressing what's happening when people are calling in, and where to route them, and things like that.
Mm. Man, seriously. I mean, customer experience is its own currency. Customers are willing to pay a premium for better experiences. And it's so hard to fight for that when you're in the
Mm-hmm.
throes of shipping something out the door that's a feature
Mm-hmm.
and you've got the functionality down, right? The functionality works, the thing does its job, but the
Mm-hmm.
experience is clunky or, there's something off. Either
Mm-hmm.
the interface is a little fugly or it's a Frankenstein or whatever, or, you're fighting against typos or shitty text or whatever it is, or it doesn't filter. You'll just have to search for something by clicking through all these pages, stuff like that. And it's so hard to be in that position of like, hey, yeah, we got the thing working, but can we make it just a little bit better? Or does anybody have it left in them? Can we scrape something out of the bottom of the pot here for a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of time to spend on making this thing just a little bit better, just a little bit easier to use, so that, because no one's ever going to come back to this. No one's going to touch this again in 6 years. So if we don't do it now, it won't get done. And we're all going to live with this thing, and the customers are all going to hate us, and they're going to write in, and we're going to ignore it, and that's just how it's going to be. And so when you're in that boat of like, you're fighting against time, you're fighting against everybody's out of gas, the calendar, the days are evaporating, and you're trying to advocate for like one little thing or one or two little things that are going to clean it up a little bit more, it's so hard to be that advocate, because you don't want to piss off your team. You don't want to make everybody feel like, oh my God, like, let's wrap this up. But you have to be that person who's sort of willing to just be like, and also, can we get this? And also, can we get that? Can we also please get this? Because if you don't, nobody will. Nobody will, because everybody's already moving on to the next big project or whatever. And so it's like you're sort of just sweeping up those little bits of crumbs that are still like kind of left in the corners, trying to get this
Mm-hmm.
thing kind of cleaned up. But that's like I think that's what really one of the hardest things about being in this role is that you feel those little pains more than
Mm-hmm.
others do. A lot of the times you're more, as a designer, you're way more sensitive to that clunkiness or those typos or whatever it is than
Mm-hmm.
anybody else on the team will be. And but later when customers see it, it'll be the first thing they feel. They'll be like, damn it, why is this thing so weird? Like, didn't anybody look at this? And you just want to
Mm-hmm.
scream. So
Mm-hmm.
you do have to sort of steel yourself to like hear from your team like, hell no, we're not spending more time on this, like, get over it and move on. But there are times when you can get those wins, like maybe 1 out of 10 times you'll get that win and somebody will be like, oh yeah, let's fix that real fast. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
thank God. But
And it's good to
yeah.
have documentation of those things, because likelihood, like you said, they're not going to get fixed. But then when somebody does notice, they're going to be like, why didn't UX catch this? And then you need the
Uh-huh.
documentation to say, oh, but I did.
Yes, that's so
so
true. That's so
so
true. Even
even
if it's
when
just
you
like a shit list or something
yeah,
somewhere,
even if
just
you
have
don't
it.
get
Yeah.
9 out of the 10 things in, I
Yes.
would say definitely make sure you have all 10 things listed
Right.
out somewhere,
Yes,
so that you can refer
absolutely.
back to it later.
Totally. Well, what do you think? Time for one more question?
I think we should maybe wrap up with one of our questions about kind of looking ahead,
Oh,
looking
yes.
forward.
Okay. So this last question is for you for next week. What's one thing you're going to do this week, and what's one thing you're not going to do?
Oof. Well, last week, I will say that my one thing I was going to do was go out on more walks, because as many of us are working from home, I can stay in my house nonstop. And I think it's a good reminder for all of us to get out there and breathe some fresh air, look at some things that are, maybe different colors or different different textures, especially as designers. Like, I stare at my stucco wall
Yes.
all day, and I don't think that's terribly inspiring. So I think that was my goal for last week, and I did a much better job. So I'd like to do that as the thing I'm going to continue doing.
Cool.
And then my don't do for this week is just try to be a little bit more well, this is, I guess, another do now, but to be a little bit kinder, a little bit more generous with kind of asks when I get asks on delivery, to just be like, no, you've got time. Like, this may seem urgent, but you, like, take a step back, maybe, think through some of the things we talked about today around, like, is this really the problem to be solved? And just be a little bit more a little less anxious about those requests as they come in. So those are my do's and don'ts for this week, and hopefully
Yes.
they help other folks trying to survive in their UX career this week. Thank you so much for posing all these really awesome questions, Jessamyn, and collecting them for us this week.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to whatever we have on the docket for the future. And to all of our listeners out there, we hope that you join us again soon.
Yay. Yes. Email us your questions and your stories at survivingux@gmail.com. Hit us up on LinkedIn or Facebook. We're on there. See you next time.
I'd like to thank my co-host, Jessamyn Edwards. Today's episode was edited by myself, Meg Kramer, and our theme music is the on-hold music for, among other things, Cisco Phones. It's Opus Number 1 by Tim Carlton and Derek Deal. We hope that you survive the next week, and we will see you next time.